Here today. Got a couple people taking a little batting practice behind us, just to make sure you know we are indeed at Progressive
On my way to the studio, man, I went through the queue and I saw the number up there.
Yeah.
In the rafters. No one can ever wear it.
That's right.
That speaks to how good he
Retired
was.
your jersey. They're going to retire your microphone when you're done as well?
Well, I don't know about that. Now,
Oh,
only Joe Tate.
Only Joe Tate?
Only Joe Tate.
Okay.
All right, let's talk some Lakers. Where do the Lakers now go after missing out on the free agent they wanted more than any other in Kawhi Leonard? Well, they filled out their roster with veterans, most notably Boogie Cousins and Kawhi's former teammate, Danny Green. The Lakers also brought back Rajon Rondo and JaVale McGee. Austin, what do you make of the Lakers' moves after missing out on Kawhi Leonard?
Well, I think they've done about as good as they could do after missing out on the original what they wanted to put together, they wanted to put together. But again, it's a hodgepodge, but at the same time, I understand because that's what we went through here when LeBron was here.
Absolutely.
Exact same thing. All the young guys gone. They were lucky to keep Kuzma. I like Kuzma's game, but it's all veterans now, and so there's a whole different thing. Getting them to understand how LeBron wants to play will be much easier now than having them get a lot of backlash from the younger guys.
Okay, so 4 years when LeBron was back in Cleveland, elite offense every single year. That is because they surrounded LeBron with what?
Shooters.
Shooters. Right. And that's obviously what the Lakers failed on last year.
Right.
That's why I love the Danny Green addition. He's an excellent defender and shot 45% from three last year. You mentioned earlier Quinn Cook. Now, it'll be a bigger role than he's been asked to play in the past, but I actually like the Quinn Cook addition.
Yeah.
He's cheap. He can shoot. They need a point guard out there. I'm less bullish on Rajon Rondo. And so this is where I want your expertise on it. Do you think Rondo would be okay backing up a player such as Quinn Cook?
Yeah.
Because I think Rondo on the court when LeBron's off the court makes sense. He can run the offense. He can be the leader on the court. But Rondo on the court with LeBron, now one of your guards has no shooting ability at all. The floor gets compact. So you want as many Quinn Cook and LeBron minutes as possible. Ego-wise, how do you think Rondo would deal with that? How do you think the coaching staff communicates that to him if they're thinking what I'm thinking?
Right, I know. I don't know how that situation is going to work. I mean, it's going to work, how fluid it'll be. Because, Cook is going to have to, Rondo, I don't think Rondo is going to, in other words, if Cook was a higher stature,
yes,
maybe he could accept it. But because of Cook's stature, I don't know if Rondo will be able to handle that. At the same time, playing with LeBron is different. And like you said, Cook is going to be more of a, you can throw the ball, he can catch and shoot it, and you do all that. Rondo's different. He's not going to be able to do that, so that it's going to have to change the flow of what they do.
To me, it's a LeBron James problem because after everything they went through with Magic and Rob Pelinka, there is no way you get to the bottom of that roster and you're trying to fill out spots 10 through 12 or 10 through 15. You don't call LeBron and say, do you want Rondo back? Knowing these other guys, knowing you have Caruso, knowing you got Quinn Cook, you decide to go back. So to me, Rondo's overall value is around that team and around that locker room, and he proved that, even though the numbers might not say that. He played a year. It's not like we just have him because Anthony Davis and Boogie Cousins, which I do believe Boogie Cousins played his best basketball, people say, with Anthony Davis. But Rondo was there also. So for me, this is a leadership with LeBron. I believe LeBron has more power this year than the previous year in Los Angeles, given everything else they went through, Jenna.
CC, you mentioned Boogie. Austin, I'm curious where you think Boogie fits into this roster, how much he'll be utilized, and whether we had some issues with him in Golden State, whether his ego would allow for either coming off the bench or not, how he fits in to Frank Vogel's system.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's a different, the dynamic is different there because Vogel is on thin ground anyway. Because he got Jason there. To me, Jason is just a coach in waiting.
Just waiting.
So that puts the head coach in a tough situation. So it's kind of hard to figure out how that's going to work. But I kind of feel like you feel. I don't throw Boogie is going to be, if he's okay, fine. If he's not, we can sit him there. We're not paying him that, we can sit him there. I don't see him being, because, again, that Achilles is going to be, That's tough. And from what I saw, he can't elevate anymore. And that's going to be a tough situation if you can't elevate at his size and run the floor like he has to.
All right, you mentioned the coaching situation. Jen has been harping on this really all off season. So you've got Frank Vogel as the head coach. Then you have Jason Kidd. You also have Lionel Hollins.
Right.
They're also in talks with a defensive assistant from the Warriors. But let's just talk about those three guys. When LeBron's first year back in Cleveland, they had already hired David Blatt. Then LeBron comes back. They obviously hired David Blatt to coach a young team. LeBron's there. We're trying to win. You trade Wiggins for Kevin Love. LeBron's guy, Ty Lue. Now, he hadn't been a head coach in the league at that point in time, is sitting on the bench. A lot of people thought, man, is Ty going to end up getting this job? A year and a half later, even though the Cavs, I think, had the best record in the conference, they get blown out by 100 by Golden State. They fire Vogel. It ends up working out. I'm sorry, they fire David Blatt. Works out great. Ty Lue proves to be an excellent coach. David Blatt probably never be in the NBA again. So it's not apples to apples. But how hard is Frank Vogel's job? You haven't seen David Blatt looking over his shoulder with Ty Lue, where he's looking over his shoulder at two guys, one of whom, and Jason Kidd's been a head coach for two different teams in the league, played on Team USA with LeBron, has LeBron's enormous respect.
And did he interview with the Lakers
And
as well?
interviewed with the Lakers for the head coaching job. How do you think that affects Vogel's ability to do his job?
Oh, it's going to be, I think, a tug of war. I don't think because of the situation, I mean, even to have Jason Kidd hanging over your head like that, I mean, every time, if they get into a slow start, I mean, you watch, the media is going to be right on top of it. Kidd in the waiting, Kidd, and that has to have an effect. I hope that Vogel and Kidd and Hollins, they have a conversation and get everything understood early, because it's definitely that those people in L.A. are waiting for a winner. They're looking for a winner. And if you don't bring it to them right away, it's going to be, it's going to be all types of things coming out. And they got to be strong and together to make it work.
CeCe, how much of this is going to be Vogel sitting the team down, and how much is it going to be Vogel sitting with LeBron and saying, what's going to work for you best? We don't have that third guy now. What would be best for you to make this work?
Well, I don't think Frank is going to LeBron saying what's best. I think that they have figured out a number of things, and I believe they can prove it by the analytics, by what the numbers say. You can put a piece of paper in front of LeBron and say, we are best at this. But they didn't have a roster then. So they just got a roster. So trying to figure out, oh, who's going to play this? Who's going to be the problems? Like, oh, Jason Kidd's going to be a problem. Oh, Boogie Cousins. That's part of sports. It's about working out. They're big boys. They're being paid contracts. Vogel knew what he was up against. But let me tell you something. The roster he has is a lot better than what he thought it was going to be. So that's a good problem to have. Boogie Cousins, I believe that situation works itself out. When you look at the Lakers roster, it becomes important that the best players play. There's not a better center on their roster. So you guys say, oh, Boogie's not going to play. It's going to be hard not to play him.
Well, Anthony Davis might be the better center.
Anthony Davis does not want to play center. He's always said that, and his best basketball came when he played the 4 and Boogie played the 5 next to him.
All right, so let's talk about Anthony Davis real quick, because in LeBron's career, he's played with great wings, great point guards, great power forward in Kevin Love and Chris Bosh, and Anthony Davis is 4 or 5. He is the best true big man LeBron's ever played with by an enormous margin.
Right.
I think the second best is Big Z. Is Zadrunas probably. How do you, we've talked so much about the Lakers, I feel like we haven't talked much about Anthony Davis. Having watched LeBron his whole career, how do you think LeBron's game matches up with Anthony Davis, and what do you think that duo is going to look like?
Oh, it's going to, to me, I feel it's going to be fantastic, because LeBron is going to be able to play in all over the floor. I think LeBron will play more of a well-rounded game now. He won't dominate so much the ball. He'll give it up because he's going to get it in positions. Anthony Davis is, see, because one thing I know LeBron will do, he's going to know when to give it and how to give it to Davis and get out of the way. And then the key is going to be, can they all stay and play all the time, and you don't have to isolate a guy to get his performance. As long as you can keep them playing together, and that's what LeBron wants. He wants to get in a situation where even though I'm throwing it to you, I'm still in play, he's still in play, he's still in play. So now defensively, you got to worry about everybody all the time. And that is a tough situation when you got LeBron James on the floor and you got to worry about Anthony Davis too, and you got to worry about whoever else, Kuzma, it makes it a tough defensive effort because you got to give up something to stop one situation.
Austin, thanks so much for joining us
Oh,
today.
it's my pleasure, always.
We had fun with you. We got to take a break. Coming up, talk some baseball. Nick Swisher and Rob Manfred are going to stop by. That's ahead on First Thing First, live from Cleveland, Ohio.
Good seeing you, baby.
Thanks for asking.